Hello everyone, Mr. Reeves back with you again. And I wanted just to take some time to work out some practice problems as we continue to work through lesson 1.3, subtracting integers. So I'm just going again. I am going to again just take some time and work through some problems. Hopefully you've watched both of my previous videos on this lesson where I explain the meaning of what it means to subtract and add integers on the number line and using counters. Then I worked out some examples on the number line and counters. And then today I'm just going to be working through some different problems, and we're going to be using the idea that subtraction is equivalent to adding the opposite. All right, so that's what we're going to be doing. I'm going to go ahead and start right here with guided practice. Here we go. Question number 1 says, explain how to find each difference using counters. 5 minus 8. Okay, so remember just real quickly that if I have 5, this is positive 5, I would have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 yellows, right? And I want to take away 8. The problem is you cannot take away more than you have. So what do I need? I need 3 more, because then I can take away 8, right? But if you're going to add more yellows, you also have to add more reds. Remember, these are called 0 pairs. All right, that's an O right there. 0 pairs. Okay, so what I have to do then is I need to add 3 0 pairs, right? Okay, I add 3 0 pairs, and then what am I going to do? Then I'm going to remove 8 yellow counters. All right. And when I remove 8 yellow counters, because I have I have 5 take away 8, right? So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, right? What does that do? That leaves 3 red counters. And since I have 3 red counters left, that's my answer. So 5 minus 8 is -3. 5 minus 8 is -3. And we could check that answer because 5 minus 8 is equivalent to 5 plus -8. Subtracting a positive is the same as adding a negative. What do I have more of? I have more negatives. How many more negatives do I have? I have 3. All right, this one would be much easier because on number 2 I have 5 negatives, right? And I want to take away 3 negatives, and that simply leaves me with 2 negatives. So this one would be much easier. All right, so this would just be remove 3 red counters, leaves 2 red counters, right? So the answer would be -2. Alrighty. Okay, so that's how we would do that one. Find each, use a number line. All right, -4 minus 5. All right. So if I were doing this on the number line, I could start at -4. Well, actually, I could start at 0. So I'm going to go from 0 to -4. So that gets me to -4. And then I want to go back 5. Remember, subtracting 5 goes 5 to the left. So then we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right. So where do I end up with? Wow, that's really bad. That's really bad. Let me try that again. Let's see if I could do a little bit better. So I'm going to go from 0 to -4. And then I'm going to go from -4, 5 more over to negative 9. Not much better, is it? All right, but that is where I end up, right? I end up right here at, man, I end up right here. Let's stitch the arrow, and let's see if I could do this. Man. All right, there we go. Negative 9. So negative 4 minus 5 is the same as negative 4 plus negative 5, because remember, this could be minus 5, or it could be plus negative 5. It's the same thing, right? And I get 4 negatives plus 5 negatives is negative 9. This one right here on this number line, I could go from, and we got to get back to, here we go. All right. From 1, so I go that way, I'm at 1, right? But then they want me to take away 4, so then I go back 1, 2, 3, 4. All right? And that puts me at, I think this takes more time than it's worth here. That puts me at negative 3, okay? So 1 minus 4 is the same as 1 plus negative 4, because remember, when you go back to the left, that's subtracting 4, which is the same as adding negative 4. All right, but now what do I have more of? I have more negatives. How many more negatives do I have? I have 3. All right, so that's with counters and the number line. But honestly, we could just go through and remember that subtracting is the same as adding the opposite. Subtracting is equivalent to adding the opposite. So the first thing I'm going to do on these problems is I'm going to change them to adding the opposite. So 8 minus 11 becomes 8 plus the opposite of 11. Negative 3 minus negative 5 becomes negative 3 plus a positive 5. 15 minus 21 becomes 15 plus negative 21. 0 minus negative 5 becomes 0 plus a positive 5. 15 minus 1 becomes 15 plus negative 1, although honestly I think you could just do 15 minus 1 for that one, right? 19 minus a negative 19 becomes 19 plus a positive 19, right? Negative 17 minus 1 becomes negative 17 plus negative 1, and you get the idea. Subtracting is equivalent to adding the opposite, and then just go through and say, okay, what do I have more of? I have more negatives. How many more negatives do I have? I have 3, because 11 minus 8 is 3. What do I have more of? I have more negatives. How many more negatives do I have? I have 6 more negatives. Well, 0 plus 5 is just 5, right? What do I have more of here? More positives. 15 minus 1 is 14. Here I have all positives. 19 plus 19 would be 38. What do I have more of? I have more positives. How many more do I have? 5 minus 3 is 2. And here I have all negatives. 17 negatives plus 1 more negative makes 18 negatives. So again, if you don't have to use counters or the number line, the best thing to say is subtracting is the same as adding the opposite. So this becomes 1 plus 18. This becomes negative 3 plus 45. This becomes negative 87 plus 87. And yes, it is okay to do this, as many of you have learned how to do. All right, if you're doing it on paper, especially. If you're doing it online, it's not quite as necessary or helpful. But this is how we often do it when we're doing it on paper. All right. Okay, let's look at a couple word problems, and then this video will be done, and then you can make sure you do your practice. All right, Theo had a balance of negative 4 in his savings account. After making a deposit, he has $25. What is the overall change? Well, when you want to find the overall change, that's another way for finding the difference, right? And difference means to subtract. So I'm going to go $25, where he ended up with, minus a negative 4. Now remember, it's not minus 4, it's minus a negative 4. All right, and that's the same as 25 plus 4, right? Because again, we could do this. Subtracting a negative is the same as adding a positive, and we get 29. So the overall change was 29. He went from 4 down to 25 up. All right, what about this next one? As shown, Susie starts her hike at an elevation below sea level. When she reaches the end of the hike, she is still below sea level at negative 127 feet. What was the change in elevation? All right, so again, the change tells us we're going to subtract, okay? All right, so where did she start and where did she end? So she ended, we're going to do the end minus the start, okay? The end minus the start. So I'm going to do negative 27, which is where she ended, minus 225, minus a negative 225, which is where she began, right? All right, so subtracting a negative is the same as adding a positive, right? Okay, so here we go. So what I have is a negative 127 plus a 225. So I need to subtract 225 minus 127. Let's see what the difference between those is. Well, I'm going to have to borrow here. So 15 minus 7 is 8, right? And then I'm going to have 11 minus 2 is also going to be, that's going to be 9. Okay, so the answer is 98. All right, so 98 feet is the change. All right, 98 feet is how far it is from being down 127 to being up 225, or actually backwards, from being down 225 up to 127. Okay. All right, so I think that is all that I'm going to do. Again, when you see that word difference, it's going to be subtracting. When you see that word change, it's going to be subtracting. And guys, remember when you're doing the online assignments, you're allowed to view an example or do it step by step. So if you need some extra help on a problem, take advantage of that help that is offered. And hopefully, speaking of help, this video was helpful. And always, if you need more help, make sure just to contact me and let me know. Have a great day, everybody. We'll see you next time.